Welcome back, warrior. We are reading Judges chapter 6, and the preface says Israel is in bondage to the Midianites. Ooh, I think I like this story. Oh, yes, I do. And an angel appears to Gideon and calls him to deliver Israel. He overthrows the altar of Baal. The Spirit of the Lord rests upon him, and the Lord gives him a sign to show he is called to deliver Israel. Okay. So here we go. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. Okay, remember how we don't like the way that we word things here in the scriptures. Now, again, this is just Sister Winegar's interpretation or speculation of scriptures. But it's that Israel was no longer wanting to choose the Lord, and so then they weakened themselves by doing that, therefore allowing themselves to be caught by Midian. And of course the Lord's not going to deliver them out of their hands because Israel's not even keeping covenants or anything and not praying to him for help. So of course that's how it's going to be. Verse 2, and the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains and caves and strongholds. And so it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites and the children of the east, they came up against them. And they encamped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth till thou come to Gaza, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep nor ox nor donkey. For they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude. For both they and their camels were without number, and they entered into the land to destroy it. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. Finally, and it came to pass, when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt, and brought you forth out of the house of bondage. And I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand and all that oppressed you, and drave them out from before you, and gave you their land. And I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But ye have not obeyed my voice. You see? And there came an angel of the Lord, and sat under an oak, which was in Ophrah, that pertained unto Joash, and Abizarite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress, to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him, and said unto him, The Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. Okay, so there's a city called Ophrah in there. Isn't that cool? I don't know the story of Oprah's name, but I remember it was something like she was Christian. So anyway, let's see. Okay. So mighty man of valor. So the call of Gideon, every single person who wishes to be an instrument in the hands of the Lord can be blessed by knowing this story by heart. The Lord may put any of us in our own Gideon moments, and the more Gideons we have in these last days, the better for all of us. Again, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and so the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Midianites. The Midianites had joined the Amalekites to fight against the Israelites, and were numbered like grasshoppers and sands of the sea. The Midianites were known for being camel-riding warriors, and Gideon will mention the exceeding number of camels multiple times. In verse 4, we see the beginning of the conquest of Israel when the Midianites, the Amalekites, and the children of the east come up against them. Therefore, we have nations coming to bring Israel into captivity. If you look deeply into these verses, we can see the kind of destruction these nations brought with them and the suffering Israel must have endured. So the Israelites were left in a terrible position. And we see that Israelites had fled and were living in dens and caves in the mountains. So all of this together helps us see that the Israelites were in a desperate position. And think about how many stories could be told in the single line that says, and Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. Oh yeah. So verses 7 to 10 give us words of a nameless prophet who proclaims to Israel all that the Lord had done for them, and that the oppression they were experiencing was because of their disobedience. See, I told you. Wouldn't it be great to know more about this prophet? Yes, it would. Then an angel came to a man named Gideon, who was working in the fields, and he was threshing wheat, and that was done by beating wheat so that the grain would separate from the straw. Typically this was done on a threshing floor, but here it mentions that it was done by a wine press. The ancient reader would have more easily picked up on what this could mean without an explanation, but modern day readers may need help of Josephus. Okay, hold on. It's so thirsty. Okay, and verse 13 first. We'll read for verse 13 and 14, and then we'll read the Josephus quote. And Gideon said unto him, O my Lord, remember the angel, if the Lord be with us, why then is all this befallen us? And where be all his miracles, which our fathers told us of, saying, did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord hath forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. Oh, that's how they think that. They think they don't have to try. They think they don't have to try to have a connection with Christ. They think that Christ is just going to save them because they're special. And what I love about Elder Brad Wilcox, or Brother Brad Wilcox, he says that we're not better. We're not called because we're better than the rest of everyone, but we are called to make the rest of everyone better. And that is what seems that Gideon and everybody else thought, that they didn't have to try hard, that they were just going to be the gifted people, and that they were just going to be chosen, and because they're chosen, they don't have to try. And now that is our mistake always, right? And so verse 14, and the Lord looked upon him and said, go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent thee? Okay, so now he's saying this. Oh, and verse 15 and 16, and then we'll read. Anyway, and then he says, and he said unto him, O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And the Lord said unto him, surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. Okay, so I love that the Lord never addresses people, never elaborates on people's sharing of their weakness, right? He's not like, yeah, but this, and this. He just kind of ignores what they said. And he's like, but now, so, Gideon's like, oh, but now that the Lord delivered us into the hands of Midianites, and the Lord looked on him and said, go in this thy might, right? And it's like, no, but I'm like the least of them. And the Lord said, surely I will be with thee. He's just like, I'll be with you, even though you might think you're doing this all by yourself. So anyway, Gideon Okay, this is just the quote from Josephus. It says, Gideon also, the son of Joash, one of the principal persons of the tribe of Manasseh, brought his sheaves privately and threshed them at the winepress, for he was too fearful of the enemies to thresh them openly in the threshing floor. At this time, the angel appeared to him in the shape of a young man and told him that he was an happy man and beloved of God, to which he immediately replied, a mighty indication of God's favor to me, that I am forced to use this winepress instead of a threshing floor. But the angel exhorted him to be of good courage and to make an attempt for the recovery of their liberty. He answered that it was impossible for him to recover it because of the tribe to which he belonged was by no means numerous, and because he was but young himself and too inconsiderable to think of such great actions. But the angel promised him that God would supply what he was defective in and would afford the Israelites victory under his conduct. End quote. Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, Book 5. So the angel calling Gideon to deliver Israel, and Israel knows more about Gideon than Gideon knows about himself. And I love that he says that the Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. Go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. So this must have seemed like an unbelievable thing to him. And because he replied, like, how am I going to save Israel, right? Then Gideon lists the things that immediately stand out to him that are his weaknesses, right? And then he just didn't have a good understanding of who the Lord was and who the Lord could help him become, right? And isn't that how we are? We do not understand who we are. And only the Lord can help us in that pursuit. And we don't know who we can become, but the Lord does. Okay, and God does. Elder Dieter F. Uchtdorf said this: God will take you as you are at this very moment and begin to work with you. All you need is a willing heart, a desire to believe and trust in the Lord. Gideon saw himself as a poor farmer, the least of his father's house, but God saw him as a mighty man of valor. My dear brothers and sisters, if we look at ourselves only through our mortal eyes, we may not see ourselves as good enough. End quote. Elder President Dieter F. Uchtdorf, it works wonderfully. October 2015 General Conference. So the answer given to Gideon is the same as was given to Enoch and Moses when they felt unqualified for what they were being called. And he said, surely I will be with thee. Right? The Lord is going to be with us. Okay, verse 17. And he said unto him, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then show me a sign that thou talkest with me. Depart not hence, I pray thee, until I come unto thee, and bring forth my present, and set it before thee. And he said, I will tarry until thou come again. And Gideon went in and made ready a kid and unleavened cakes of an ephah of flour. The flesh he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot, and he brought it out unto him under the oak, and presented it. And the angel of God said unto him, take the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and lay them upon this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so. And the angel of God, and the angel of the Lord put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes. And there rose up a fire out of the rock, and consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes. Then the angel of the Lord departed out of his sight. And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of the Lord, Gideon said, alas, O Lord God, for because I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. And the Lord said unto him, peace be unto thee. Fear not, thou shalt not die. Then Gideon built an altar there unto the Lord, and called it Jehovah Shalom. Unto this day it is yet in Ophrah of the Abizarites. And it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, take thy father's young bullock even the second bullock of the 7-year-olds of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father hath, and cut down the grove that is by it, and build an altar unto the Lord thy God upon the top of this rock in the ordered place, and take the second bullock, and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which thou shalt cut down. And Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as the Lord had said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father's household, and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, that he did it by night. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it. Ooh, I hate it when there's trees cut down, but still. And the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. And they said one to another, who hath done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, hath done this thing. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, bring out thy son, that he may die, because he hath cast down the altar of Baal, and because he hath cut down the grove that was by it. Okay, so I guess those things we're not allowed to do, but it was for false gods, so should be okay, right? That's what I think anyway. So he says, and Joash said unto all that stood against him, will ye plead for Baal? Will ye save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death, whilst it is yet morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one hath cast down his altar. Therefore on that day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar. Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east were gathered together, and went over and pitched in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Abiezer was gathered after him. And he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, who also was gathered after him. And he sent messengers unto Asher, and unto Zebulun, and unto Naphtali, and they came up to meet him. And Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said, behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the floor, and if the dew be on the fleece only, and it be dry upon the earth beside, then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said. And it was so, for he rose up early on the morrow, and thrust the fleece together, and wringed the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water. And Gideon said unto God, let not thine anger be hot against me, and I will speak. But this once let me prove, I pray thee. But this once with the fleece, let it now be dry only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground. Isn't that interesting that sometimes we can test the Lord and sometimes we can't, or we can ask for a miracle. And I wonder if, because he had been approached by the Lord, that he was doing this for them, so that he could help Gideon be a little bit more comfortable, right? So let's see. So Gideon's father, Joash, then steps forward and saves Gideon in a very clever way. He suggests that Baal will avenge himself, that anyone who thinks that he will not must be put to death that very morning. Then the next scene is the great army that was gathered together against the Israelites, and Gideon gathered an army to go against them. It would be so interesting to be able to witness this, right? How might Gideon, the same person who overthrew Baal's altar, gather a big enough army to go against a massive, frightful army? So this is now Gideon's asking for a second sign, right? So he had gathered an army of 32,000 men. Things were now extremely serious, and the lives of all these Israelites are under his command. Gideon then asked for another sign. It's back up just to make sure that it wasn't his idea, right? I feel like sometimes we are was that my idea or his idea? Was that my idea or the Lord's idea, right? And so he's let's just make sure that I'm not crazy. And so Gideon asked for another sign of the Lord, and it was the whole dew on the fleece. versus dry ground. And the Old Testament seminary teacher manual explains the difference between this situation where Gideon asked for a sign and a person like Korihor who demanded a sign. So it says, there's a difference between sincerely seeking confirmation from God with real intent and demanding a sign from God without faith. The motive of the person seeking the sign from God is important. Oh, that's what we were trying to say, right? Okay, so that's from the Old Testament seminary teacher manual. I keep wanting to say student. Gideon asked for a simple sign, and now the Lord gave the sign on the fleece, and then it's going to be opposite sign with dew on the ground, none on the fleece. So that is awesome. Okay, so there's this read it, live it. So that's the end of that chapter. I really like the story of Gideon. It's very relatable, you know? Like I would have asked for stuff too and felt inadequate and everything, right? Like, let me make sure that you really want me to do this. Okay, Judges chapter 6, verse 12 says, the Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. Gideon didn't feel mighty, but God saw something different. He called out Gideon's potential. Believe who he says you are. Believe in the potential that God knows that you are. I love that. Okay. Until Judges chapter 7, stay strong, warrior.